Here's a cool story about a dream and how it all culminated at the end. So I'm adopted, and I've never had a dream about my real mom until a couple of years ago. She came and visited me in a dream, and it was strange because it was in black and white, and I usually dream in vivid color. Also, what was strange is that I was a small child, and I was holding her hand, and she walked me up to what I saw were cemetery gates, and she pointed out over all these headstones that were climbing like kind of up a gentle hill, but around the cemetery was all these tall buildings. And she took my hand and she walks me into the cemetery. She makes a right, walks up like a while, and then she makes a left and walks inward into the row of headstones, and she stops and points down, and it was her headstone. I woke up. So when I woke up from the dream, I told my wife about it, and it was really strange. It struck me as more odd than usual. So she said, well, maybe your mom had a message for you and it's important for you to visit her. And I never thought about it. Here I am about 35 years old, never thought to even go to this woman's grave because I didn't know her that well. She was 3 when I passed. I was 3 when she passed. So we went ahead and got in contact with one of my biological half-sisters. And she said, yeah, I'll tell you where she is, but I'm not going to meet you there. It's still too emotional for me to go and see her. But your half-brother is in town, and he happens to go there pretty often. So she put me in touch with my half-brother, who I hadn't talked to in a very long time either. And he said, yeah, I'll meet you there. And it was just kind of like one of those things, like I didn't really tell him why I wanted to go. I just said I wanted to go. And I'll tell you the next part. Okay, so after I talked to my brother, who I, again, haven't talked to in a long time, he agrees to meet me at the cemetery. My wife and I think it was like 2 days later, we go to the address of the cemetery, and it's in Jersey City, New Jersey. We get there, and it's exactly like I saw it in my dreams. The cemetery was in the middle, and all of these giant buildings were surrounding it. And it was like kind of on a hill, so it's exactly what I saw. My wife and I got out of the car. I remember this so vividly, walked up to the space where in my dream I'd stood with my mom, and I remember just in my dream recalling it, looking up at her at this particular spot and her pointing, and then I grabbed my wife by the hand and I said, this is where we're going up there, I know right where to go. And of course my wife is like, you know right where to go? You've never been here. And I said, watch, let's go check it out. And that's what we did. One more part, maybe 2. So we walk up the hill in the cemetery where I had never been except for in my dream, and we go up a couple rows, and I make the left, and I walk right down to where my mom's headstone is, and I stand there, and we wait, and my brother shows up eventually, and we talk for a while, and we get to talking, and he asks about, do you know who your biological dad is? I said, no, I've seen his name on paperwork because he had to give up his right to me for my parents to adopt me. So I know his name, but that's about it. And my brother said, well, I could tell you that mom kept it a secret for some reason, but he was a firefighter, and we think that he drove a truck. So after that meeting, I took this information and I went home and I did what I do. I jumped on Google and I started looking for that search criteria to see what would come up, his name and occupation. So after I get all this information about my dad's occupation, and well, not my dad, my father, the guy who donated to my being here, I go home and I Google him. I Google the name, first and last, the city, his occupations, and guess what comes up? Somebody with the same name and occupations had just passed away after a massive stroke just a couple weeks prior. And the reason I think my mom came to me was so that she could tell me that he passed away. Now, was this man ever important to me? Not one bit. But maybe later on in life I would have gotten the idea to go look for him. And she was just kind of saying, like, don't bother, he's here, and he's gone. So it was an interesting thing, and one of the only times she ever came to visit me in a dream. So weird, right? If you've been following along, thanks a lot. I probably have more cool stories.